Welcome to part 2, draw an animal which we will place into our habitat. The materials you will need are your habitat from last week, your photograph of your animal, or you can picture your animal in your mind, a blank piece of white paper, a pencil, and something to color with. I used markers and colored pencils. And finally, scissors and glue. I'm going to start in pencil on a blank piece of paper, and I'm going to start by observing a photograph of my animal. Then I start with the shape of the head, and I add in the features of the face, such as the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. I study the shapes and the lines that I see in the real animal, and I picture that when I'm drawing my animal. I can always change anything about it since I'm doing it in pencil, so don't worry about making a mistake. Just go for the basic shape of the body next, and then add in the legs, arms, or even tail if your animal has one. Don't worry about your animal looking exactly like the photograph. Every animal looks different, just like every person looks different. So don't worry about making a mistake or thinking that yours doesn't look exactly like a photograph. That won't matter. Your animal will still look beautiful in its habitat. Finally, add any more details that you think will make your animal look identifiable. Next, I'm going to trace all of my lines using marker, and I'm using markers colors that are realistic. So I look at the photograph and I use those similar colors as I'm tracing it in marker. For my tree frog, I used a lot of solid green line, but I also used a dotted green line. And for the eyes, I used a black outline with a black pupil. Finally, I added a yellow line that I noticed in the photograph on the mouth. Next, you're going to want to color in your animal realistic colors. I liked using colored pencil for this. Crayons would work well too, or even if you want to color it in with marker. You want to use realistic colors, so I used red for the eye and green for the upper body, and then orange for the lower body. Notice how I use a mix of different colors. So I use a dark orange and a light orange. I mix in some red on the toes and in the eyes. And I mix in some yellow over the top of the green and some dark green in with the light green as well. Try mixing two colors together on your animal and see what color it turns out to be. Here's how my tree frog turned out when I was finished coloring it in. Next, we're going to get our supplies ready to cut it out and glue it into its habitat. You'll need scissors and glue for this step. Make sure you're cutting with your thumb on top as you're cutting out your animal. You want to get as close to the animal as possible. You don't want any paper surrounding the animal. So take your time and stay right on the outside line that you traced with marker, and carefully turn your paper as you cut your animal out. When you're finished, trim off any white paper that you see around your animal so that way it really looks more realistic. Finally, decide where you want your animal to be in your habitat. Do you want it to be sitting on a branch? Do you want it to be sitting on the ground, hopping up in the air, or laying on a rock? Decide where you would want it to be, and once you've decided, then you can glue your animal down. You want to put the glue on the back of your animal. So flip your animal over and spread your glue out across the back of the animal, and then flip it back over and press it down exactly where you want it to go. It would be hard to get them back up, and it sometimes rips if you make a mistake. So be sure that's where you want it before pressing down. Don't forget to close up your glue when you're finished with it. I can't wait to see how all of your animals look in their habitats.